Over the past few months, the current administration has been at war with Harvard University. Widely regarded as the top university in the U.S., Harvard has faced criticism for refusing to comply with President Donald Trump's policies. These are policies that would restructure admissions guidelines and hiring practices, as well as cut DEI programs. As a consequence, the Trump administration froze more than $2 billion in grant funding, and in response, the school filed a lawsuit, marking the beginning of an intense legal battle between both sides.
The Trump administration's claim is that Harvard has had a spike in anti-Semitic incidents on campus and that the university has not responded appropriately to that anti-Semitism. Harvard then received from the federal government a list of demands, a wide list of demands that cover how they admit students, what type of faculty they hire, how they do their research, really issues that get to the core of Harvard's mission. And in response, Harvard filed a lawsuit alleging that the Trump administration was violating, among other rights, the university's First Amendment rights.
That's Elora Mukherjee, a clinical professor of law at Columbia Law School and director of the Immigrants' Rights Clinic. Although the conflict has been going on for a while, last month the rift escalated. The Department of Homeland Security banned Harvard from enrolling international students, which make up a quarter of the school's student body. Even with warnings from the administration that this could happen, the decision still came as a complete shock to Alfred Williamson, a rising sophomore at Harvard and an international student from England.
I essentially got home, I opened my phone, I saw the news, and I didn't know whether I was suddenly considered an illegal immigrant by the White House, or as they describe people like myself, an illegal alien. I was scared. I was in disbelief. I did not ever expect this to happen. I thought that Trump, his threat to remove the status of international students was simply a scare tactic. And my American friends never expected this. So I was just in complete shock and I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to do. And the rest of the international community was in the same boat. You know, international students had fought for years for the opportunity to attend Harvard, and that was taken away within a matter of moments. And, you know, including myself, the rest of the international community, we didn't just want to study at Harvard, we wanted to study in America. We believed in American values, we wanted to contribute to the American economy, and we wanted to pursue the hope of the American dream. And Trump took that away from international students in a matter of seconds.
In June, a federal judge blocked President Trump's order banning international students from attending Harvard. The judge also blocked a directive from DHS Secretary Kristi Noem that would have forced international students to transfer or risk losing their legal status. But both rulings are only temporary. For students like Williamson, this state of limbo is stressful.
Of course, it's good news hearing that the judge has blocked the order, and they did that previously when they took away the visa statuses as well, and that would provide a little hope. But we keep seeing the Trump administration will try and take another route to subvert Harvard and to punish international students for attending an institution that refuses to bow down to the Trump administration's demands. So right now, I have no idea. Right now, we're okay for next week and maybe the week after, but 2 months' time, I don't know. And it's not enough for the international students, the international community, to have their places guaranteed for the next week or two. We want it for the next 4 years.
Williamson says many of his peers have changed their plans for the summer out of fear that their visas could get revoked. Instead of going home to see family, many are now spending their break near campus. For those living in campus housing, this meant scrambling to find and afford a place to stay this summer. And for students thinking of transferring out to avoid the craziness, that option's off the table too, as most application deadlines for next year have already passed.
I've had many international friends who are also too scared to speak out, who were too scared to go home. And they weren't all from countries that Trump has a big issue with. They were people from European countries like Spain and France. And even they were too scared to go back to their home countries because they thought that they would not be allowed to return. So a lot of them stayed at Harvard to do research or to do other work simply because they thought that they'd lose their education if they tried to go back. As for transferring and things like that, all the application deadlines have passed, all the transfer deadlines have passed. So that's not a formal option for anyone. I'm sure there's some universities that might be sympathetic and might be able to make exceptions. But most people don't want to look into that because it's essentially admitting defeat.
And it's not just Harvard students that are afraid. Mukherjee says international students across the country have had their visas revoked, though judges are issuing orders blocking those terminations. Specifically, the U.S. State Department is targeting Chinese students, announcing their intention to aggressively revoke visas for those with connections to the Chinese Communist Party or studying in critical fields. With all the legal uncertainty and unrest, Mukherjee agrees it's safest for international students to remain in the U.S. for now.
I've been advising international students that they should stay in the United States. I know that many international students have plans to travel abroad this summer, but given the deep uncertainty in immigration law and policy, literally immigration law seems to be changing week to week, day to day, it is safer for international students to remain in the United States. If people are in the United States, it is much easier for them to have their status, their legal status, reinstituted. It is much more difficult for an individual who is abroad when their visa is terminated or abroad when their status is terminated to come back into the United States.
Harvard's case is still making its way through court, and no one can predict the outcome. But if Trump's ban does go into effect, it would be unprecedented. Mukherjee says she's only aware of 3 prior cases where a university or college lost its certification to host international students, and those were all due to fraud, not for publicly disagreeing with the federal government. If the ban is upheld, Harvard would lose a chunk of their student body, and this impact would stretch far beyond their campus bounds.
International students are a vibrant part of every aspect of Harvard campus life, research, teaching. And I think, as the Harvard complaint says in federal court, Harvard wouldn't be Harvard without its international students. A decision to ban Harvard from enrolling international students would have devastating effects for thousands of people across the world who have made enormous sacrifices. And not being able to enroll these students would have devastating consequences for American public life, for research in the sciences, for research in health advancements, and for every aspect of human progress.
Williamson knows the future for the school will be tough with this legal battle, but is still planning to return in the fall to study physics and government. At the same time, he knows that nothing is guaranteed. In the meantime, he's using his voice to advocate for himself and other international students, despite knowing that there may be consequences.
So many international students are too afraid to speak or say what I'm saying. And it's not because the handful of us who are willing to speak out are particularly brave. We might actually be naive, because we might be sacrificing our education just for using our voice. And I completely understand why most international students are too scared to speak. And I was told by my friends, my family, my peers not to speak out because of the risks that presents to myself. I think Americans need to be very careful of what that means for American democracy. It's a country that was founded on freedom of speech.
For now, the legal battle continues, and only time will tell how it shakes out. To learn more about this topic and our featured guests, visit viewpointsradio.org. For more behind the scenes and to support our show, follow Viewpoints Radio on Instagram, Facebook, and X. This segment was written and produced by Grace Galante. Our executive producer is Amira Zaveri. Our studio manager is Jason Dickey. I'm Gary Price.